Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this webinar today. My name is Stephen Barr. I'm an architect and evangelist with CloudFix. Today we have Rahul Subramaniam and Joe's Knuckle. Rahul and Joe's, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Thanks, Stephen. A pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Rahul Subramaniam. I'm the founder and CEO at CloudFix.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Joe Knuckle. I lead product for Amazon QuickSight.
We're really glad to be here. I wanted to start by giving a bit of background on CloudFix. The CloudFix is a tool for identifying opportunities for cost optimization. Now, CloudFix doesn't just find, but it fixes issues with customers' AWS accounts. So the key differentiators between CloudFix and its competitors are it's exclusively focused on AWS, and we don't just find, but also fix the issues. And so this is a laser focus that we found is unique within the marketplace of cost optimization tools. So as part of this, we didn't want to build a visualization framework. So that kind of sets the stage for the discussion we wanted to have today. Now, Raul, is this how you see CloudFix and its relationship with data visualization tools?
Yeah, I think let me give some context for how CloudFix came to be. So I think that'll explain why the focus on fixing issues. So um, in my other role as the CTO of a larger group of companies, the problem that I struggled with was managing about 40,000 AWS accounts of our own. And we've been big AWS customers since 2007. So the whole struggle was around trying to figure out how to actually operate efficiently in AWS and achieve those without being hindered by a lot of the tools. So we were looking out for tools that would actually help us save money, be efficient, and have all the bells and whistles we were looking for in place. Unfortunately, we found that none of the tools were solving the core problem that we had, which is saving money and putting that money in the bank so that we could reinvest it and do more with AWS. Most of them are focused just around presenting data in different ways. And that seemed to be the differentiating factor for these tools. So, as much as I hate owning code and managing code, um, I had to go ahead and build CloudFix for a simple reason that the efficiency gains that we could get with a tool like that fixed issues was really significant and mandated that we go create it. Now, back to the point that you were making about focus. Yes, our laser focus was on trying to make sure that we were saving money and putting that in the bank. So fixes were really, really important to us. Visualizations, there are n number of visualization tools out there that do visualization in all kinds of different ways, and we'll come to the challenges of that as a product manager in just a bit. But we wanted to focus on the core value proposition of the product, which is fixing issues.
Oh, awesome. That's I really like that focus that we bring to it. When I was looking at the marketplace of cost cloud financial management tools, a lot of them were very broad and they did these cool visualizations. But from what I found, you have to understand how their view of the cloud in general. So they had a general model, and then they also had a mapping of their general model to AWS, and then you had to map their model to your model of the cloud. And so it seems like it's a lot of leaps to really understand what your particular infrastructure is doing versus how they view the world. So, how have you seen maybe some reports that maybe are misleading or not detailed enough to really take action?
Yeah, I think that's where one of the big struggles really started. Number one is a lot of these tools are trying to, you know, be multi-cloud to present the biggest amounts of data and value as possible. And so, in trying to become a multi cloud solution around visualization, the drawback is that you then start pandering to the least common denominator of all the services and all the functionality across the three cloud providers or four cloud providers, whatever the number might be. Now, the problem there is that there's a big disparity in the number of services and the kinds of services across the different cloud providers. At AWS, you've got 200 plus services, and now with this reinvent, it's probably got to add another 50. So it's an ever increasing volume, and it's an order of magnitude greater than what you see in other cloud providers. So when you are only dealing with the least common denominator, you're not really presenting the whole picture. And then the struggle of the way you organize all your visualizations becomes that you sometimes almost need a PhD in specific services just to be able to navigate the UI and the UX, and it becomes insanely complicated. So I think there's a bit of disservice that you do when you try to become multi-cloud, because then all these other you know aspects of visualization become really hard. There isn't something simple to look at. There isn't something to take away, and there isn't a simple call to action when you look at a simple dashboard. So or when you look at a dashboard, it's definitely not simple. So that's one of the big drawbacks of trying to be everything for everybody from a visualization standpoint, and that was our biggest struggle.
It seems like this is perhaps one from some hard experience or some. What kind of played a role in leading to that level of focus?
Okay, so my background is primarily been in enterprise software, and as a product manager in enterprise software, you always struggle with staying true to the original vision and the true value proposition that you envisaged for the product. Typically, what happens is that the first paying customer who comes in demands a certain set of features that will make it viable for them to use it. That'll be really valuable to them, but you are not entirely sure if those distractions, which they are in most cases, are going to be valuable for the broader audience, right? But because they're the first paying customer, you go in and you build all those customizations for them because you hope that they'll get feedback, and that's something that everyone else is also going to want. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, we were laser focused on the fixes part of our product vision. And because the whole market had trained every customer on visualization and all the variants in visualizations, the biggest demand that customers had of us in terms of customization was, hey, I want all these amazing reports. And literally every meeting, there would be a request for a different kind of report. And all it did was slice and dice the data in different ways and presented different types of charts. In one meeting, they would want bar graphs. In the other one, they would want pie charts. And then the third one, they'd want stacked charts. And then in the fourth one, they'd want something else. And it was just like an endless stream of these customization requests that we were getting bogged down by. Now, as a product manager, right, you want to make sure that you're spending all of your time and effort on the core value proposition, which is fixing the problems with cost efficiency and realizing the savings. And all of these other things were starting to become a big distraction for us. And that's, I think, a challenge with everybody. When you're building a product, your customers are going to want a whole lot of customizations. Data visualization and BI are literally the number one things on their list. And I think thanks to a ton of work that AWS has done, all of that has now become commodity. You don't need to, like, even 10 years ago, in 5 years ago, we had to custom build every data visualization tool. We used to have separate databases that were dedicated to just visualization. We'd have all these libraries that we'd use to build all our custom dashboards with. And then there'd be a ton of, developer time that we spent on all of that stuff. And I think thanks to all the efforts that AWS has put in, it's actually become a commodity tool or a service that you can attach to your product today.
Yeah, that's really great perspective. I remember as a young data scientist, maybe 10 years ago now, right? First, you're asked to make a visualization, and before you know it, you've got Docker containers, and you're trying to make a custom API, and you're working on all these different issues that are so far away from the problem that you actually wanted to solve. And as a young programmer, it's a fun diversion. But then as a product manager who has to deliver an outcome for a finite cost, it's definitely not the way you want to go. So that's a great perspective. I like that phrase, undifferentiated heavy lift. And not just heavy lift, but perpetual lift, because you have to update the libraries, the browser's changing, the visualization styles that change, the trends in what type of charts are interesting to look at. Those all change, and those are all things that are pretty far away from the core value proposition of the users of these.
Absolutely.
So from a customer perspective, how did you narrow down exactly what they wanted, like as a core need?
Okay, so I think it was very clear that all the customers wanted to slice and dice the cost and usage report, which is CUR, in different ways because they wanted to understand how and where they're spending money and how things get accounted for and where things roll up to. And that's, you know, a pretty interesting problem to work on. The nice thing were that the CUR is a very standard data source sitting in S3. You could query it any way you want. And so you had all the tools specifically with Athena that were ready for you to start using it right away. And we are very lucky in working with Joe's over here, almost from the very beginning, when QuickSight had just about come, or had been announced, and we started presenting these challenges that we had with trying to build out QuickSight dashboards for our customers. And I have to say, it's been an absolute privilege to work with Joe's and his team on some amazing features that they've built over the years. And if there's one takeaway that I have is that I have never regretted betting in the long term on an AWS team and working closely with them. The end product and the solutions are things that get us to the right place, even if it takes a little bit longer than the shortcuts, but it gets us to the right place eventually. So I think it was really beneficial to work with Joe's and team right from the beginning, where they told us where they were headed, and it was perfectly aligned with the way we were thinking about the product. In a certain sense, it was outsourcing the biggest heavy lifts and the biggest problems to Joe's and team and saying, you give us these things and we will focus on our fixes. So I think all credit to the team at AWS for building all those amazing features that got us the final solution that we want. And I think the customer focus that their team had really helped us make sure that we could do what we do while they did all the heavy lifting around visualization for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've set the stage for AWS and Joe's and your team, QuickSight, to jump in and help save the day here. So, Joe, should we introduce you and then tell us about how you got started and seeing the evolution of QuickSight from the beginning to where it is right now, and what problem it was trying to solve?
Sure. And it's been a journey, I will tell you that. So I've been at AWS for about 8 years now, most of that time at QuickSight. And I think I first met Rahul in 2017, if I'm not wrong, or somewhere there. So
Correct.
QuickSight as a service was launched in 2016, and Rahul, I think we met in Seattle in 2017.
Correct.
Yeah. And
Around that time.
yeah, the genesis of QuickSight at AWS was all about how do we get insights to all users. So when I say all users, it means all the users in a company, all the users of an app. So wherever a customer of AWS, at the time that was the thinking, wanted to get insights out to. So the question became, how do you make sure that you're not challenged for scale, like performance? You don't kind of pause and think about, oh no, is this going to cost me another license? Should I do this? Should I not? Whereas the point is, you've got your data, you have curated it, you've done the work on it. Like in this case, Rahul and team have really done the work to make sure you understand your costs and that there are actions you can take. But then if you don't have those visualizations, it's very difficult for somebody to understand what exactly is going on, right? And visualizations can tell a story. Different types of visualizations appeal to different people. So these are all things we learned over the course of the years. But the whole idea was, when we launched QuickSight, the point was, can we launch a product that at scale is highly performant and yet at the same time is easy for people to use and easy for developers and builders to work on? And I'll tell you, it takes a while to build something like this. So the first few years were all kind of going to customers, understanding their needs, and understanding really what we want to do. And so there were two distinct categories that came out. One was obviously business intelligence, where we had a set of customers who wanted to use insights for their internal audience. And then we also realized that there was a large swath of customers who wanted to use QuickSight to provide insights to their external audiences. So in this case, like CloudFix and its customers, you've got a wide variety of customers across different verticals or domains who are doing the same thing. Now, the question is, what is required to do that? And then that was a conversation that I had with Rahul in 2017, which was, Rahul had a list. So we don't want it to be internal BI. We don't want it to be constraining. We want to be able to access everything using APIs. And I think the conversation at the time was, yes, I think we are aligned, but we don't have the goods yet. So we're going to build it out. And it's been a multi-year journey. So the first, I think, about 3 years until 2018, 2019 were completely spent on building the foundation of QuickSight. So that's the serverless backend that you see today. So QuickSight does not have any servers that you buy, whether you want it or not. So I couldn't sell you a server if I wanted to, because the entire thing is built on native AWS technologies. So that means that when you go from 5 users to 500 to 500,000 or 5 million, users simply come to AWS, and QuickSight allocates resources and make sure that you get performant dashboards and visuals on for those users. And we had a number of requests from Rahul, you and team, on APIs. How do you do this programmatically? I don't want to be going into a QuickSight interface to configure my users or configure permissions. So that again was a journey. And all of that, also over the years, we also realized that people did not always want to consume data in one fashion. So like Rahul said, um, the flavor of the season can vary. It can be a bar chart, it can be a pie chart, stacked bar, whatever it is. But we also realized that a lot of people want to consume reports. So traditional, PDF or Excel files with data, so that you can look at it offline, you can archive it. So there are some benefits to it. We also saw that with machine learning, we can do a lot more for users, which is natural language query. So you can simply ask questions of data. So we started with generative technologies back in 2020 with QuickSight Q. So that was another piece that we added in. And all of this coming together has helped customers go from, start off small, scale out to as many as they want. And at the same time, the key thing that we I love that we do is provide product managers and product owners with focus. So you can focus on the key value proposition that you have, and take away the undifferentiated part of visualizations, dashboards, reports, and provide all of them as a service. So
Yeah.
it's been great to be on this journey, Rahul.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, I wanted to make a specific point around QuickSight Q. So for a lot of customers, um, just for us, from our standpoint, QuickSight Q kind of came to us for free because we didn't have to invest any engineering in it. It just came up as a new feature, and we were able to just literally do nothing to turn it on for our customers and make all of that available to them. But from a customer standpoint, the ability to then automatically go to your dashboard and be able to start making natural language queries was a huge leap in the kind of interactions that they could have with these dashboards. So, back to what we were talking about in terms of focus, we didn't spend more than a day enabling QuickSight Q across the board, while we could just focus all of our effort on the fixers and the finders that we were working on. And the customers saw a huge big bump in the kind of functionality and the kinds of things that they could do with the dashboards that we were creating. So from their standpoint, the customization got a whole level better and a whole level more exciting for them. Not only that, there's one other feature that I want to call out, which was pretty remarkable. At the end of the day, a lot of customers do care about the look and feel between the app and the dashboards and stuff that you have being similar. They don't like to go to a different place to go look at their dashboards and stuff. So even though initially we kind of started off with QuickSight dashboards, which were kind of standalone and separate from the app, where you could go in and look at all of your data, for a lot of the customers, the fact that then you had the templatizer, you could do all the CSS, and you could make sure that the look and feel became very similar to what you were doing in your app, that made a big difference. That did, bring a more cohesive sense for the core application and the QuickSight dashboards. They were embedded in, and so customers didn't, in a lot of cases, didn't even realize that they were two different things. So I think all of those things, as they've evolved over the years, have just been huge benefits that have come very naturally to customers, while at the same time from our standpoint, we've had very little effort put into actually make that work and delivered to the customers.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the value propositions we see, how we benefit customers and how we, work hard for all of you. Because we see that once you adopt QuickSight, us adding more value into it in whatever way, right? So for example, the theming that you mentioned, more APIs, QuickSight Q, all of that directly accrues to the fact that you can now deliver those as services on your product. And so a great emphasis has been on how do we make sure that we have APIs and we have the right constructs for you to build on those capabilities. QuickSight Q is a great example because natural language query is pretty difficult, if you take it as a standalone piece. And so integrating it into the product just allows like software providers such as yourself to quickly take that on and add it in. And we've seen that one of the other big emphasis, especially with embedded analytics, has been how can I make sure it looks like the app? So what you said about the theming and the customizations, that's very important to us. So in fact, we just launched a new feature in the last week where we allow you to work on runtime theming. So dark mode, for example, is a big ask in many products. So with the new feature, you're able to quickly switch over from one theme to the other when the user is in the product. So definitely lots of work going on to make sure that we provide you all of these hooks, which allow you to make the embedded visuals and dashboards look as native as possible to the application itself.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, it's really neat reflecting on the evolution of QuickSight over time, right? Because when QuickSight initially came out, it was like in the preview and in the initial GA release, it was a more limited set of visuals compared to say like Tableau or Power BI, where they were at the time. But I love that idea of because when you start using an AWS product, they're going to improve it over time, and you get those improvements with no effort, right? You've just signed up, you're in that ecosystem, and all of a sudden QuickSight Q gets announced, and you can roll, like you said, with a day's worth of effort. Now it's downstream, it's for our users. So how did you, I guess, compare both the other commercial tools that were available at the time you made the decisions? That was 2018, 2019, or like you said, maybe you could have gone down the route of, if I wrote my own framework like with D3 or something, then I could theme it, right? Whereas you didn't know that feature was coming down the pipeline. So how did you sort all that out?
Okay, this might be very not a very common thing you'll hear from a CTO, but I have a severe aversion to writing and owning code, specifically when they are undifferentiated. So in my role and my job, we manage over 2 billion lines of code, and I can tell you for a fact that it is an insanely laborsome, expensive exercise to own and manage that for decades at a time. So, given my 20-year history with 20 plus year history of working with 2 billion plus lines of code, I've developed the severe aversion to owning anything that we write ourselves and kind of build from scratch. So that definitely eliminated trying to build a BI solution from scratch in my head, pretty much right out of the gate. Then there were a bunch of libraries, of course, like D3JS, and there have been a bunch of frameworks over the last 10, 12 years, which have definitely made it easier to templatize some of the dashboarding stuff, but it still requires a lot of code to be written to stitch it all together, to put it into a dashboard. And it's easier to create static dashboards where the dashboards you don't have to let the user basically create all the parameters, have all those drop downs, and then decide how the entire look and feel of that dashboard is going to change for each customization. That still requires tons of code to add, as a feature. So we kind of stayed away from trying to go down that path. And like I said, with AWS, my 15 plus years working with AWS, the history has been if you get in early enough as an adopter, uh, particularly when there are a few customers trying to, make it work with AWS. I have had an amazing experience where AWS actually listens to the customers, really listens to the problems that they have. We have amazing discussions. I remember bringing up the CSS stuff before it was a thing. I remember, the conversations around natural language things before QuickSight Q came out. So as there are these conversations, I feel more confident about working with AWS to make things work than a Power BI or one of those other tools where I am just one of I don't know how many customers, and I wouldn't know whether my voice or my specific problems would even get heard. So that partnership has been incredibly valuable for us with AWS. We've grown our entire portfolio and our entire suite of products, including CloudFix, with the AWS ecosystem, and that partnership has been remarkable to kind of you know get get there. So thanks to the AWS team again for listening and making us feel like we're part of the journey and we're being heard.
I will also add that Rahul was very clear about his needs, so that helped because we were, as Rahul mentioned, AWS teams typically have this journey where you launch a product and then you're iterating on it, and you're constantly iterating on it. So in the past year, we've been delivering more than a feature a week, right? So it's about 80 features in a year, and we keep iterating so that as soon as we launch a feature, we understand what the customers are doing, how they use it, and then what else can we do better. So that's a constant focus. And when we launched QuickSight, yes, it was a core set of features, and then we iterated on it. The advantage is that you get to kind of play with it as a customer, you get to build on it, but you also get to put in your point of view in terms of what's needed, and we are always working backwards from the customer. So when Rahul came and mentioned, hey, your look and feel is different from mine, because QuickSight started off as a business intelligence tool, so it had a core framework, a set of things you could do. But as we were working with Rahul and a bunch of other customers, it became apparent that you need to provide customization, you need to provide the hooks, and those were the features that we brought in over time. And then the other piece that we also saw is that even though everybody starts with a dashboard, there is a need to go further, right? So there is a need to go further, not just as a developer who's building on things, but also as a customer. So when CloudFix's large customers, for example, come in and ask for custom reports, would that be something that CloudFix does, or would that be something that you just open up with a QuickSight license to the end customer? So then we launched, iteratively, we launched dashboards, visuals, the entire authoring experience, reporting, QuickSight Q, all of them as pieces that you can add to the product, which just provides for a much richer product. So the thing that Rahul mentioned sometime back, which is as a CTO, his biggest thing is maintaining undifferentiated code. That is the message that I try to give a lot of the product owners that I speak with, because the space of visualization and insights keeps changing. And customer expectations keep changing because somebody's seen the latest and the greatest in a flashy new tool which has, I don't know, 10 customers. But then again, the big players in the market have always had the pressure then to go back and add that small little feature that somebody added. So instead, when you adopt a service like QuickSight, you do have the benefit that those features get rolled out into the product, and then those become tools for you to play with and to integrate with. So it just gives you that the toolkit that allows you to be flexible.
Correct. And I think a great point, Joe, is about the flavor of the month when it comes to these UI technologies. I till date we haven't resolved, what the UI technology to bet on is. At one point, it was React, then it was Angular for a while, then back to React, then there's Flutter, and then next year, like every other day, there's a new flavor of a UI technology that claims that it's going to be the future, but stuff just changes so drastically, so quickly that it just makes no sense to bet big on something that's, again, commodity heavy lifting.
Yeah,
It's not trivial,
yeah.
but it is commodity at the same time. So you just want to leverage the best that's out there, and I am more than delighted to have someone else own that problem and me using it as a service than try to build it into my product.
Yeah, and some of this can get very complex in the experience, right? So it starts out being adding a few charts is simple. Yes, great. And then as you iterate on it with your customers, it becomes like, no, I want that to have filtering, and I want that to have interactions and a bunch of things. In fact, There was this one time that I worked with a customer who wanted to put in a complex table. So no visualizations, just a table with lots of filters. And this was a pretty large company, like an enterprise company, a Fortune X company. And they spent over 12 months with a team of people trying to build the right table. And then they realized that you could just embed that table with filters and interactivity from QuickSight. And they're like, in a week, you solved my problem, which I've been spending so many cycles on, so many people on. So it's interesting how, that frame of thinking has to evolve, because the core thing that you said is focus. And what this does is it just frees up those engineers for you to, again, focus on the core problem you're solving, so that you are kind of pushing your USP, and then that helps the company and the mission that you're on.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I'd like to use this opportunity to kind of showcase that idea of focus. So I have a quick slide over here that I want to bring up. So this is the CloudFix core product dashboard. Okay. This is the page that you land on. It is really simple and focused on just three things that we want our customers to know. What is your potential savings? What is your completed savings? And what is your realized savings? We in this on this particular landing page, we don't want them to start analyzing the curve. We don't want them to slice and dice all the data. We wanted the focus purely to be, here are all the areas of potential saving, and my job, my call to action is to click on it and start saving money, right? And so the having the QuickSight dashboard being a separate thing is incredibly valuable to bring this really simple focus. If you look at every other tool that's out there in the market around cost optimization, the first big chunk of the menu and the landing pages are all about visualizing all of your data and all the dashboarding around it, right? Which defeats the purpose of actually saving money and putting it in the bank. Here's a simple example of QuickSight dashboard that we build literally every day as part of either custom consulting if somebody wants it, or as part of an extended, cloud formation stack that we let our customers deploy and use, which have all the basic dashboards. So here's one where this analyzes and tries and optimizes their discounting plans with AWS, and all the dashboards with all the slicing and dicing can be made available to them with QuickSight. So it's really, really simple. It allows us to focus on what is absolutely core to the product, which is you need to save money. And there's a simple call to action, which is click the button and save money now. So I think that delineation of roles, where the customer gets what they want with their all the slicing, dicing, and all the other power that they want with visualizing and looking at the data in different ways, that is incredibly powerful for us as a product builder.
I like the simplicity of the UI there on that landing page, because it makes you focus, like you said, just on three things, right? Those are the three takeaways. And once you have users coming into that again and again, they become, that becomes, again, that helps them, because now you're not scanning the dashboards, you're not looking at all the visualizations there, you're just looking at the three numbers. Those are like your things, go-to numbers.
Correct. Now, and I think there's one other aspect that I want to add over here as a product manager. It is really important. Visualizations are incredibly powerful, but they can also be incredibly distracting. And when you're working with large organizations, specifically around things like their own internal processes, their own way of organizing their accounts, their way of setting up their business units and the charging and the showbacks and the chargebacks, all of those aspects of FinOps, in the case of cloud optimization tools like ours, it is really hard to build one solution around dashboarding that meets everyone's needs, right? Everyone feels that they are uniquely set up. I feel that way sometimes, where I feel like the way we've set up our organization and our accounts is unique, because we have 40,000 accounts. We can't even put them under one master payer today. So we feel we are unique in one way. Other customers feel that they're unique in different ways. So to be able to just leverage visualization to get them to focus on one thing and put the distractions all in a completely different bucket and say, yeah, you have all of that, but you can deal with it separately. That that separation of concerns in that sense is incredibly valuable and powerful from a product management standpoint, because it allows customers to get to exactly what they need to get to, and all the other stuff which may be prerequisites for them to understand, the peripheral stuff around it, that's available to them, but it doesn't distract them from the main goal, which is let's go save some money now.
That's really interesting perspective on how, right, you don't, QuickSight is this incredible tool to give someone all these visualizations, but you still have to have discretion on how much you present, right? Because it can be overwhelming if you see 100 dashboards all at once, and that's where the discretion comes in on our side to be able to say, okay, what is your key need, and then how do you drill down from there? How do you customize? And then there's always that management of tension between I'm unique, but I'm not that unique that I can't use. There's still some standardization that can be applied. I want to switch gears for a second. There's, obviously one thing that Amazon does is they build on top of their existing products. So QuickSight has also served as the basis for other AWS products, such as the Cloud Intelligence dashboards. And I wanted to know, from your perspective, what that was like on those, the development, how they're using it, and what that relationship's been like.
Yeah, the cloud intelligence dashboards are a very interesting branch of work in AWS. So I think this started off a couple of years back. So 2020, if I'm not wrong, when we had a team that built out cost optimization dashboards for customers, and that work evolved into a much larger effort. And the basis of this was they saw QuickSight, they saw all of the capabilities in there, and then they saw that customers were going to great lengths, like Rahul mentioned. They were looking at different products, they were doing their own custom D3 solutions, they were doing a lot of things to stand up visualizations on top of the curve files, because with Athena and a couple of other Amazon services you could very quickly visualize it. But then again, it would be visualized using a BI tool, which meant that a small set of users within the company would have access. And the cloud intelligence dashboards, they started off as a way to quickly visualize that data, but with great in-depth capability. Again, like Stephen, you mentioned, we didn't have all the capabilities to start with, and just like what we've been talking about, APIs are a key functionality. So when we started out, we didn't have all of the APIs needed to programmatically stand up these dashboards in customer accounts. We did have quite a bit. So 2020, 21, 22, the focus has been on how do customers take these dashboards and then deploy them into their accounts. Unlike CloudFix, those are aimed at visualization. So those are visualizing your costs. But I think the fact that QuickSight started being used there again was another sign that a lot of the capabilities that people were looking for were all in there. And this became a nice vehicle for AWS customers to look at their data, drill down, and also potentially share within the organization, which is another use case that we've seen, whether it's embedded or as a report or so on. But yeah, Yuri and team over there have been very busy building out dashboards. They've got not just the cost optimization dashboards, but they've got now KPI dashboards, EC2, even a bunch of other cloud cost computation solutions. So very interesting piece of work going on that front.
We spoke to him about 2-3 months ago now, and he was so grateful that QuickSight came along when it did, and they were able to build on top of this, right? Because the alternative route, like you said, is owning a huge amount of code that's accessible to very few people within the organization. I love how you put that.
And I think it democratized a lot of this stuff as well, right? I mean, Yuri basically was a solutions architect working with customers and trying to solve that problem. And he was able to build out this entire product literally just on QuickSight with some CloudFormation scripts that deploy them easily. And it's amazing that it actually allows or enables people to go do that without necessarily being product managers.
That's right. We've got a number of other teams within AWS, like the Security Lake and others, who've all built. You'll find blogs on this, which are on the AWS blogs. Build similar solutions where you take QuickSight and Athena, and you visualize the data that's in these lakes. So it provides a nice way for you to build on top of data you have without, again, undifferentiated taking on the undifferentiated heavy lifting pieces.
Makes total sense.
All right. So where's QuickSight going then? So what's on the roadmap for the next years? Where's your focus?
Oh, that's a multi-layered question.
Are you
I
going to
remember.
put out some secrets before reinvent?
I remember when we met Rahul in 2017. I think we spent about half a day discussing the various pieces and how you'd like to do things. So that question, Stephen, can go into a multi-day discussion. But I'll tell you at a high level, our investments in QuickSight have been from the point of view of how do we make life better for our analysts, so business analysts who we call authors. How do we make our dashboards, our reports, our QuickSight queue, consumption surfaces really easy and accessible for business users, so who we call our readers, and also the end users of applications like CloudFix. And then a big emphasis on developers, so developers such as Rahul and team, and how you're able to use the different pieces of QuickSight in order to visualize data the way you want to, the way you want to within your application to be very specific. And then of course the administrative pieces, which are to make sure that from a enterprise governance standpoint it all comes together. The other big emphasis in QuickSight has been generative BI. So we've used generative AI and we've integrated that into QuickSight. Our emphasis, so QuickSight Q has been a very early effort here. So our efforts back in 2020 used generative models. But then as we have the dawn of LLMs today, and you see LLMs being applied all across the board, generative AI helps us do things for customers in a way that was never possible before. So you'll see that what we call generative BI encompasses the entire product. And we are taking it all the way from authoring dashboards using natural language, refining them, building calculations. And we also introduced a new concept called stories. So think of stories as the last mile, right? So you've got a dashboard, you've got your insights. How do you take that and convince a team, convince your team, convince your boss, convince whoever you want to make a decision? And stories are super easy to create. So a lot of this is the work that you'll see come through in the next 6 to 12 months. And of course, there's more. Like I said, that's a very large discussion, but that's how we look at our roadmap.
Awesome. Well, I know we're getting towards the end of our time. I wanted to throw out a question to both of you, and thank you, Joe, for that perspective. And we're looking forward to seeing all the announcements, see what's happening at reInvent, and yeah, it's really exciting to see where this is going. So thank you for that perspective. So I wanted to wrap up. Question for both of you. So Rahul, wearing your product manager hat, what advice would you give to people who are looking for a visualization solution as they're evaluating the state of the marketplace?
Okay, so I'll start with a tip around product management itself. Number one, you need to have focus on what your core value proposition is. And second is you need innovation around that core value proposition. Anything that is commodity, anything that is something that others also have, which is undistinguished, you should not spend time working on that. If there's something that you can just leverage to deliver those outcomes, that's good enough. Where you're going to be differentiated, where you're going to be judged is how much innovation and how far ahead are you of the competition when it comes to your core value proposition. So put all your focus over there. Leverage as many AWS services as you can to do all the heavy lifting on all the undifferentiated aspects of software development, because that's how I actually see AWS. AWS has, over the last decade or more, constantly carved out what was differentiated heavy lifting and turned it into a commodity, service. And if something that's a commodity service is available to everybody, it is going to be undifferentiated. You might as well use it, make the most of it, and focus on what is the core differentiator for your own product.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's no sense trying to write something that AWS is writing with all of their resources, all of their visibility into multi-customer needs. Let them do it. Focus on your own value add. That's awesome advice. All right, Joe, turning to you. What is your call to action for listeners of the webinar in terms of a QuickSight and how to use it, how to get started?
Sure, yeah. I would piggyback on Rahul's piece, which is to say that focus on the remarkable differentiation that you can make, because each person, each software developer, each product owner builds product for a certain need, a certain cost. As much as you can, moving away the undifferentiated heavy lifting just saves you the time and effort. And specifically for data visualization, reporting, and insights, QuickSight provides you that. So QuickSight can provide a breadth of data visualization. I would call on folks who haven't tried it to try it out. There are over 100,000 customers of QuickSight who are using us today, and a lot of them are using us in embedded use cases. So I would say try out QuickSight, try out the embedded pieces. It takes minutes to get your first embedded dashboard because we have one-click embedding, which allows you to see this how you want it to be. And of course, all the APIs to do that programmatically as well. So yeah, try out QuickSight. There's a free trial. That's how I would kind of exhort people to take a look.
All right, check out the free trial of QuickSight. Try the one-click embeddings. You can get started very quickly. All right, well, thank you both for your time. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Joe. This has been a really fun discussion. And thanks for Bright Talk for putting this together. And thank you, audience, if you're out there watching. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.